Hello everyone, I am the Weather Dude, welcome back, and today we are going to be talking about now what is Hurricane Henri. It's going to continue to move north towards the coast of New England, so we're going to give all the latest timing and impacts and everything covered with the latest in today's video. Before I get started though, be sure to like the video and subscribe. Make sure that subscribe button is turned gray, as you will get the latest and best weather content. So we're just going to get straight into it here. So this is the 5 p.m. update. As I'm recording this, the 8 p.m. update comes very soon, so I'll try. If there's any major changes, I'll post about it in the community tab if it doesn't get into this video. So I'll try and reload the page, and we'll see if we do get an 8 o'clock. So no, it's still the 5 o'clock advisory, which is expected. It's only 7:36 right now, Eastern time. But it is right now a hurricane, 75-mile-an-hour winds, gusting to 90, pressure 991, but if we look at the hurricane hunters, they're flying around in the storm right now. This is the NOAA 2 aircraft. And yes, they found pressure of 988. And I even think they actually might have found lower than that. I'm finding about 985 is when that drop happened in pressure. So I think pressure down to 985. This thing is strengthening, and it's getting very close to, if not maybe the next hour or two, probably crossing over the Gulf Stream, which is probably why it's strengthening as it is right now. So you can see the flight level winds definitely did increase as the pressure dropped, which is normal. And of course, you can see that jump in the surface winds to about 70. But they didn't fly through the strongest part of the storm. Those 70-mile-an-hour winds were probably picked up. I'm sorry, not back here. Probably back here. That's in the southwest part of the storm. So we'll see as they continue flying. I'll get updates on that throughout the video. It only updates every, I think, 10 minutes. So you may not get too many updates, but I'll keep refreshing the page and see if we get any other updates from either of these here. So if we update, let's refresh this actually. So yeah, there's that drop in 985. Really haven't seen much besides that one spike. So we'll keep an update on that. But 75-mile-an-hour winds, pressure, I would change that to 985 in the next update. But it's going to continue to move north. 80-mile-an-hour sustained winds is what's forecast by 2 o'clock tomorrow morning. 100-mile-an-hour gust. Now the stronger it ends up being here, and over the next couple hours as it crosses the Gulf Stream, against here's North Carolina, so the Gulf Stream is going to cross very soon. The stronger it does happen to be here, the stronger it could be through landfall. So I'm thinking it could be a hurricane at landfall. Now it is actually forecast to be a 70-mile-an-hour storm at landfall, which again, 70 and 75, there's no difference except the name, tropical storm versus hurricane. But still, look at the wind gust, 85, and I'm sure there'll be a local spot where it gets higher than that. So. And even inland, right? Look at this. We're past Hartford, Connecticut, into Springfield and Worcester, and we're still talking about 45-mile-an-hour sustained winds. So do not be surprised if tropical storm warnings, or at least tropical cyclone statements, do get extended inland through maybe at least through Connecticut. Then a depression, even as it makes somewhat of a right turn through Maine. Now, as someone who lives in the northern mid-Atlantic, I was getting excited when. So at first we had a landfall forecast to be in around Nantucket, and then little by little it was going a little bit further west, and I kind of got excited, and then it started going a little bit further east again. So not so excited. But for you guys in Long Island and the southern coast of Connecticut and Rhode Island and even Nantucket, right, with this sudden little bit push to the east, you guys might get back in some more impacts. Although again, places like eastern Massachusetts, you won't get much in the way of rain. That will actually be on the western side of the circulation. So that'll be reserved for Long Island and Connecticut, and even New York City as well. And we're going to talk about there is still a chance, maybe Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and points south from there. You guys might still get some impact, so we'll talk about that as well. Hurricane warnings up for south coast of Connecticut, eastern point of Long Island and Rhode Island. And of course, we got our storm surge warnings through the entire coastline here, and tropical storm warnings that do extend down to Long Branch, New Jersey. All right, so if we look at the storm surge forecast, again, this is from the 5 o'clock update. Still 1 to 3 feet surge, even from Cape May up to Long Branch, New Jersey. But 3 to 5 feet is what we're sticking with here, still from the Long Island Sound to the Nantucket Sound, and even Boston, 1 to 3 feet of storm surge, because you could still see some winds gusting past 35 miles an hour. And even if that comes at the time of high tide, of course. And we got astronomical high tides, right, with the recent full moon. So that's also another danger that we have to add on. And this could actually come at time of high tide. So this was updated around 2:30 this afternoon. This is the more updated rainfall graphic. And as you can see, that white, less than an inch of rainfall for Nantucket. Boston, you're right on the line between less than an inch and 1 to 2. I would say western suburbs, you might be in the 1 to 2 inch range. Philadelphia, again, you're on the cusp of 1 to 2 and 2 to 4 inches. I would say you're more on the 2 to 4 inches side. Wilkes-Barre around 1 to 2. New York 2 to 4, but models guidance has been showing this 4 to 6 area probably filling in for New York. And even some areas of 6 to 10 inches cannot be ruled out. So over a half a foot in some spots is expected, maybe even over 8 inches in some spots. I noticed the rainfall doesn't stop there. Albany and south of town, 2 to 4, even 4 to 6. And Vermont, New Hampshire, especially central and southern portions of the state, 2 to 4 inches. 1 to 2 for coastal Maine. Maybe on the higher end of that 1 to 2 for Portland. So if we look at the flash flood risk, all right, look, I notice it goes inland past Albany, even Wilkes-Barre and Philly, and it would even say, parts of Delaware are included in that, and all of New Jersey. So there is some there is some flood threat, but there also is an upper level trough that's digging down, which is actually what's steering Henri. So that could be the influence to some of the rain that's happening down here. But Henri's moisture will definitely be fueled in for the northern mid-Atlantic, so that will only make matters worse. So if you look at the top right, day 1, the yellows are in the mid-Atlantic. Then we see the reds fill in for around New York City, Westport, Bridgeport, New Haven, Connecticut, Long Branch, Jersey, Newark Airport, and then day 3. I think day 1 is Saturday, so this is Sunday, so this is Monday, and obviously the storm will be moving away by Monday and Tuesday, and so will the flood risk. All right, so let's look at the wind field, the wind history. So you can see it has been expanding a little bit, the wind field. Definitely been growing outward a little bit. I believe tropical storm force winds are 150 miles from center, or at least 150 miles wide. So it's definitely growing. I think hurricane force winds are 45 miles. The wind field is growing slowly but surely. You'll probably see some more growth as it moves over the Gulf Stream. The storm will start expanding. It will start ventilating. It will start to breathe once it moves away from the grip of that trough, or at least tries to. So we'll see. I was kind of hoping, as someone who does like to see the storm, I was hoping it would pull a Sandy and make a sharp turn to the left. But, it is what it is. But it will still make somewhat of a left turn. And that's why we can see eastern Long Island and Connecticut getting impacted. I mean, if this wasn't going to make a turn, if it was to keep going in the direction it's going in now, Nantucket might see a graze at best, but this might have stayed offshore if it wasn't for that trough, kind of to help steer it a little bit. Wind probabilities, of course, are very high. Now, notice anywhere in that dark orangish color, that brownish orangish color, that's where you have greater than a 50% chance of tropical storm force winds, even greater than 60 actually. So that's why I'm saying tropical storm warnings should probably be issued here, because we're seeing the probability of those winds go up, not just at the coast, but inland as well. I noticed even parts of the Jersey Shore, 20, 30, even over 40% chance of tropical storm force winds. And that goes even into Canada. You even got 5-10% chance shot in Canada as well. So this does go inland. Arrival time, the Delaware and Jersey Shore, if you were to see those winds, they would arrive tomorrow morning, as they would in Long Island and Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Nantucket. Then for places like Springfield, Massachusetts, maybe more towards the afternoon. Central Vermont, central New Hampshire, around Portland, Maine. Later in the day, Sunday, and then, passing Bar Harbor, Maine by early Monday morning when we could see those stronger winds. Hurricane force winds aren't very high, but of course, they're right on the areas where we have the hurricane warnings. It's where you have the best chance. And I still think we have a pretty good shot here, but it will be weakening as it moves closer to land. The question is, how much does it weaken? Or it is possible that it could just maintain the same strength. Maybe it stays a 75 on our hurricane all the way. So we'll watch that as well. Earlier looks on the satellite here, there was an eye for sure, and that's kind of a weakened sense. That's probably because we saw convection develop on the south side. It was lacking convection for a while. Then the convection blossomed, but then we started to see some more shear come in from this direction, courtesy of our trough once again, and the eye sort of just filled in. So we did actually have, if I pause it on the, let me pause it here on the beginning frames. Right, you can see that's a decently formed eye. I mean, it's a ragged eye, but it's still an eye nonetheless. So we'll see if it can get that formed again. But notice the western edge of the storm, how it's all getting pulled up towards the northern Delmarva because of that trough. So that could possibly help to tug Henri and maybe a little bit to the left, but guidance is actually trending to the right. But we'll see if that trough can try and pull Henri closer a little bit west, or if it can at least pull some of its convection to the west. But guidance has been trending a little bit east, and we're definitely seeing some good outflows, so it's trying to breathe, but it probably will breathe better as it moves a little bit further north. But it is pretty much on that 38-degree north line, so it passed 37, which is around where the Gulf Stream is. So probably losing some of that energy now, but there is a lag time. I'm sure you've heard that before. So, if let's say like the warmest area of water is like right here, and the center moved over that, it might take a little bit of time for it to process it. Just like, if it's a really hot day and the sun's shining on the water, it might take a week, 2, 3+ weeks for that water to warm up. Okay, there's a lag time in that. But there is definitely a low-level center in there. Of course, the eye is sort of filled in, but you can still see where the eye is right about there. And we have convection on the south side. But on the last couple of frames, it was moving north-northeast, but don't be surprised at the 8 o'clock advisory if they actually make it due north again, because it's starting to make a little bit of a left-forward turn, or at least it's trying. Maybe not north-northwest, but certainly maybe moving in a more due north direction. So any updates from the recon and the hurricane hunters are flying through? Really not much. There is a little, I think they just flew through the eye again, or at least somewhere near it. Yeah, they're flying through, well, not really where the center is, but pretty close. There was another spike in winds to about 58 miles an hour, which is 50 knots here. So there was a little spike. But we'll see, because they still got plenty of time to fly. And actually, I think they're going to fly through the strongest part of the storm pretty soon. We found that the strongest flight level winds, at least, those hurricane force flight level winds, are actually on the southeast part of the circulation. So we'll see what happens as it moves through there. So we'll get some more updates later on. Looking at so these are just like a list of probabilities. If you go on the weather service and you tap on tropical weather, you can actually just look at this for yourself. So anywhere in the yellow is where we have potential for tropical storm force winds, 39 to 57 miles an hour. And of course, that does include, places like Philadelphia, Allentown, Trenton, New York City. And the orange is where we have the probability for those strong tropical storm force winds on the higher end, like 58 to 73. And the red is where we have those hurricane force wind potential, 74 to 110. So you can see the key down here for yourself in case you don't believe me. There actually I believe it was earlier today, there actually was an area of purple for potential of winds of greater than 110. But I was expecting that to go away anyway because the storm's going to weaken as it comes on shore. I think at most I think the highest wind gust you'll probably see is 90 to 100 tops. Honestly, may not get over, like, I would say around 80 or so. But Boston is now in that orange shading, so you could see potentially some winds of 58 to 73 miles an hour. That could be the form of sustained, or even most likely in the form of gusts, because the hurricane force winds will sustained will not get as far inland. These are probably wind gusts to hurricane force, but still, you could see several wind gusts. They may feel like sustained wind is hurricane force, so keep that in mind too. Storm surge threat. Now, according to this, they don't really have any storm surge for the Jersey Shore. Well, it says little to no, so it could be a little bit, but like anything less than a foot. But earlier maps on the National Hurricane Center still had a foot or two of storm surge for the Jersey Shore. Greater than 3 feet above ground in the orange color. So again, Long Island Sound all the way to Nantucket Sound and around Cape Cod Bay. So you guys are on the east side of the circulation, so you're going to get that, push from the south, even if you don't get the rain. And Boston, again, probably 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. And then if you go north of Boston through the coast of Maine, I'm surprised there's actually some yellows because the storm is actually going to be a depression, tropical depression with like 25 or 30 mile an hour winds by the time it moves through here. So I'm surprised that they're calling for over 1 foot of water level rise, even for coastal Maine. We'll see if that goes down. But for Boston, I do think you could see a foot or two of surge as well. And if we go to the flooding rain threat, notice, so moderate flooding rain, which is the orange, extends all the way down to like Dover, and Atlantic City, Philadelphia, Reading. Trenton points north to New York City. You're in that major flooding rain. Same for Bridgeport, Hartford, Springfield. Again, Boston, it's less of a flood threat for you, but you could see some localized flooding rain, especially west side of town. But Nantucket, you can see really not much in the way of rain. Then you can see, here's where the center is forecast to come ashore around here. And all that rain, that flooding threat is on the west side of the circulation. And for you folks that might live in the mid-Atlantic, or at least the northern mid-Atlantic, because I don't think Washington and points south are going to see really anything at all, at least related to Henri. If this was east side loaded like Elsa was, then places over here like Philly and New York will probably not see anything if this was east side loaded, like most tropical systems are. All right, so let's get into some models. So the high resolution model is showing something very interesting here. You see this band that could develop. All right, this is the 18Z model run. I could go to some of the newer runs, but they don't go out as far. We'll see if we can get to those. I don't want this to be a 45-minute video, but high resolution model has the band. It's like this band that forms on the west side of the circulation. And it's sort of similar to what I showed you on satellite, like this convection that's getting pulled off of Henri, right? And it's kind of trying to tug it because the convection is now connecting with Henri, so it's trying to tug Henri itself in that direction. I can already tell it's starting to make like a more due northward motion. And maybe in a few hours, it might even make a north-northwest turn before it makes possibly a northwest turn. But if we go back to the radar here, you can see that this band of rain, right? These bands that are going to form on the west side through Jersey. You got one right there in on the dump, right on the Mason-Dixon line, right? So these bands right here, these are the ones that are going to produce some pretty heavy rainfall rates. And remember, this is going to slow down at landfall, and guess what? So will the bands, right? Now, according to the high-resolution model, this could actually even loop around. Like now, some models do have it going inland and then whisking it out right away, but the high-resolution model has it going inland, and it's going to bring the rain around with it. So this is where central Pennsylvania comes into play, and Maryland, Delaware, and southern Jersey as that low moves its way to the south. So if we look at rainfall through the next 2 days, it does bring even northern PA and coastal Jersey 6+ inches of rain, but anywhere in that purple shading, 2 to 4 inches of rainfall, according to the high resolution model, the 18Z model run. So pretty interesting, and they do leave very little rain for Cape Cod, which is accurate. Still a couple inches for Long Island and for the south coast of Connecticut. All right, let's get to the GFS model next, because they bring it in around Rhode Island and Connecticut border. Again, look at the heavy rain. It's all on the west side. The east side, really not much except for you might get some showers in terms of like precipitation from the sky, that's about it. And then they kind of bring it north, and if it does manages to move north, that's where the green and white mountains come into play. We could see, if the rainfall doesn't appear heavy, it could, because of the terrain, like what happened with Fred down in the Smoky Mountains. We could see some flooding issues over there as well. So you can track the rainfall as it moves inland. Really not much for the northern mid-Atlantic states, maybe ½ inch to an inch. But again, where that comes ashore, right? Well, actually comes ashore right about here. And to the west of that, that's where those 2 to 5 inches of rain are expected. And it is east of New York City. And of course, New York City, we know, is very highly populated. So at least it's out of some highly populated areas. But still, one life injured or injured or killed by this storm is, one too many. So still need to be prepared for the flood threat, for the surge threat. I mean, pretty much at this point, even if the rain doesn't end up being that heavy, which it will be, but even if it doesn't, the surge is still going to be a threat pretty much no matter what. It's pretty much unavoidable at this point. All right. Unless the storm dramatically weakens, which is not forecast right now. The Canadian model, interestingly, does bring it also through Rhode Island with the rain right on the center and points west. Then it does bring it inland through New York and does drop south, and that's when, again, that's pretty much your shot in the northern mid-Atlantic of getting some rain and wind before it whisks itself out to sea. If we look at, let's go out 3 days or so, rainfall totals, highest according to the Canadian models offshore, but still a good 2 to 4 inches for eastern PA, northern Jersey, the Catskill region, southern Vermont, western Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, and Long Island. So yeah, there's a lot of places impacted by this, a lot of regions. Now, don't necessarily focus on the storm strength, because I can assure you it's stronger than what the models are showing. I just want you to look at the models for the rainfall intensity and for the track. NAM model also brings it right on Rhode Island. So we're seeing a lot of models with a Rhode Island landfall. We got 3 votes for that. Heavy rainfall forming to the west. And notice how long that heavy rain sits over New York City. Like I wanted to give you an idea here. Right, so heavy rainfall starts in New York City around 8 p.m. Sunday, right? And it pretty much sits over there pretty much until like 3 to 5 a.m. is when it moves out. So that's like pretty much from when you go to bed till the time you wake up in New York City. It could still be, I mean, if this plays out right. So it could still be raining, and that's a pretty significant flood threat for New York City if it plays out like that. And you can see New York City right around 3 to 5 inches, of course, on Long Island to the east, closer to that center of circulation. That's where you can see 6 to 8 inch rainfall total. So according to the NAM 12 km, if we look at the RGEM model, all right, you can see the RGEM, all right, as early as late tonight, could have some banding over eastern Pennsylvania there and western Jersey, pushing through Delaware. So we'll see what happens with that. But look at that northern western eye wall, like Rhode Island, like according to this, at 2 p.m. Sunday, getting slammed. All right, so they call for a landfall around 5 o'clock or so p.m. on Sunday. So we've got a lot of models calling for a Rhode Island landfall. Now, even though what I've noticed personally from the guidance, even though they excuse me, they trended slightly farther to the east, I'm seeing more of a bend to the west once it does get inland. You hear what I'm saying? Like at first, when the models were trending west, they kind of had it going west, but then going out. Now they have it going more east, but maybe trending a little bit westward more, and then curving out. I know it's a lot to take in, but models are shifting around for sure. And yes, of course, when the low is sitting up here, when it makes its southernmost approach, you can see some showers coming from the north and west for the mid-Atlantic states, but really not much impacts there for you guys. I know it's even sad for me to say. I know. But of course, in the long run, it's a good thing that, the Mid-Atlantic isn't also getting affected, because we know that Philly and DC are also very highly populated places. So rainfall totals with the RGEM model here, very heavy amounts, 2 to 4 inches, maybe some spots getting over 6 isolated. And your 1 inch totals for eastern Pennsylvania and Jersey as well. Good amount of the state of Jersey could see 1 inch plus of rainfall, so keep that in mind. And our final model here is the HRDPS. Now, they do show something very interesting, right? Now, they bring it in, really not Rhode Island. That's like Massachusetts landfall, like what was originally forecast, actually. But then, like, look how much they bring it west through New York, right? And then you could see some, isolated pop-up storms associated with Henri that come from the north and west that could, be pretty heavy in terms of rainfall intensity. So if we look at the rainfall totals with the HRDPS, maybe some isolated spots in the Mid-Atlantic could total over 2 inches, but the core of the rain, 2 to 5 with isolated 6 plus, seems to be the northeastern corner of PA, northern Jersey, and then points east-northeast from there. So New York City, New Haven, New London, Connecticut, Montauk, New York, and southern Rhode Island as well. But the Cape, your primary threat is the wind and the surge, not the rainfall. And the rainfall will be to the west, where you guys are going to see it all, because like in Connecticut and Long Island, you can see the rain and the wind and the surge. At least Cape Cod doesn't have to worry about the rain so much, so that's good news. But still, feet of water rise is never good. So even by itself without the other threats. So thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for updates. I am the Weather Dude signing off. Till next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video.